Before I jump into some questions, I gotta say, I was rewatching some of The White Lotus earlier this week. It's just like it's so good. It's just so. I was messaging my editor, and he's a huge fan of it as well. And I was just like, because when I watched the show, I devoured it immediately, and I watched it pretty much all in like 1 or 2 sittings. And then it's been a minute since I was with it, and it's just so brilliant. So thank you for taking the time to talk to me.
Of course, thank you for saying that.
Yeah,
I feel insanely lucky to have been a part of it.
yeah, and congratulations on the nomination. Sorry, I forgot to tell you that. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Very well deserved. I loved how that White Lotus is everywhere, and it's not just the acting, it's also like the music and the costumes, and I think it's just so much so good.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike White gave us all the opportunity to shine and this thing that, and so he took really talented people and gave them this incredible vehicle through his own brilliance and his writing and his directing to really showcase what we could all do. And so I'm delighted by the nominations. I think it's incredible.
I do want to ask about just in a general sense, collaborating with Mike, just because I think his writing is so rich in terms of, I feel like there's not a lot of writers that can write comedy as rich as he does. And there's like, 5 or 6 different things that you could probably utilize in like one random seemingly throwaway line of dialogue and infuse it with so much character. So I guess I wanted to know, what's it sort of like just reading that on the page, just because I think his writing is otherworldly good.
Yeah, his writing is amazing. And I will say that there have been, and I'm sure every actor has this experience, projects I've done where I really rely on my instincts a ton, especially, I mean, I've been doing this for a while now, so I've sort of had to learn to do that. But sometimes your instinct on certain projects is, I need to say something different here. I'm not a writer. I don't know exactly what it is, but this doesn't feel right. And you're sort of like cramming, and then you don't really know, and you're second guessing yourself. You never feel that with Mike White's writing, obviously. I mean, you go into go into every day, and everything just feels so seamless and right. And his direction makes so much sense and is so coherent. And obviously he's an incredible talent. And I mean, the best way to say it is, I guess, he makes something very difficult look easy. He wrote The White Lotus, I think, in a very quick amount of time. I think HBO called and was like, we need content, because it was during the pandemic. And I think he had the show up and running 2 months later.
Oh, wow. That's incredible. The fact that this show, with how much like the number of people in it, the social commentary, the great writing, the balance of dramedy and the comedy and drama, the fact that he could deliver that on such a short amount of time and get these performances from that ensemble, that boggles my mind.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah. I guess I wanted to ask you, it's not firstly, but secondly, I had forgotten how early on in this series, Shane, Jake's character, is such, for lack of a better phrase, a douche to everybody at the White Lotus. And I guess I wanted to know, how much do you think Rachel feels like she has to apologize for him? If not apologize for him, maybe be sort of a more sympathetic presence.
I think it's her personality. I think that she's very different than him, and like she says at the end, she got sort of caught up in all the positive parts of Shane, which at least for her were the fun of having the money, the parties, the going out, the being whisked around New York, and the kind of lack of worry that having money brings you. And she was sort of brought into that world. And I think he fit in that world. So maybe she didn't see it as much. And then she's on vacation. And I think she was ignoring a lot of that. I do think she feels the need to sort of apologize, but also she never really, she tells him, you've never done anything wrong. You know,
Yeah.
she calls him a baby, but she also says, you've done nothing wrong. And I think that's taking a lot of responsibility for her own actions and getting into the marriage. And I think that palatable. But she's just a very sweet person who I think doesn't know how to really stand up for herself. And so, yeah, she apologizes for him, but she's stuck in a world that isn't really her own and that she doesn't really like that much. She likes the idea of it, but really being in it doesn't make her that happy. So, so she is conflicted.
Yeah. You know, on my rewatch, I had really connected with Rachel because, like, I came from a family who didn't have a lot of money. So I feel like if I were sort of thrust into a situation where, especially if it feels like a whirlwind type of thing, and like if the one thing you had to worry about like your entire life, you don't have to worry about that anymore. I bet that sort of like really messes with like your psyche as a person. You sort of don't really know where to put a lot of focus. And that's where I sort of connected with her, just because, like, you know, I saw my parents struggle a lot with money, and it was just it was always at like the forefront of my brain, even as like a, you know, a young teenager. So I think that is something that really, really comes through with your performance too. Cause, you know, when Rachel talks about her parents, there was like a, I don't know, there's a little bit of sadness there, but there's also sort of like a, to me, there was like a defense of like her own history with her family, if that makes sense. I'm sort of just rambling now, but.
No, I agree. And I do think that a part of her desire to be a successful woman, yes, there's this sort of feminist aspect of it, or I'm supposed to do this, or I'm supposed to do that. But there's also probably part of her that part of success and how we measure success is through money in America, other parts of the world, of course, but and especially with the internet, I think there's been more and more focus with all this stuff on having stuff and having money, and the importance of that sort of means money equals success, which we all know that that's not necessarily true, but in her mind, just getting by, I don't think was making her feel like she had done what she was supposed to do. Yes. So somehow being with Shane means that she, you know, and she says this too, that her friends, everyone was so happy for her and it all seemed so positive. Like finally she had some sort of success by having, and Molly Shannon says it to me, Kitty, she says, you know, like he picked you, he chose you.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's, I think, whether she wants to admit it or not, there's part of her that's saying, oh, I'm successful because I got into this world, but she hates it at the same time.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about that there was like that exchange where I think she actually says to you, she's like, you won, as like, you know, he could have had any of these other girls and you know, he picked you, you won. So I was actually wondering if there was even part of Rachel that sort of bought into that as well. Like she thought that she also kind of won in a weird way.
I don't know that she actively was thinking about it before. I don't think she ever thought, but I do think that there was part of her that when it was put to her like that, I don't think she liked it.
Yeah.
But like when she sort of started to realize, oh, I am a trophy wife, or people view me that way, she didn't like that at all. But I do think that she enjoyed the money at the same time, but I just don't think she acknowledged this idea of, you know, and, you know, her concerns about the prenup and her, all of this stuff. it's on her mind,
Mhm.
that she doesn't feel like a success while also feeling like a success by being with someone wealthy like that. So it's this real conflict of, what does it mean to be a woman in my 30s? What does it mean to be a success? Am I accomplishing what I should as a feminist? Am I accomplishing enough for my family? Am I accomplishing enough for myself? Who am I? Why haven't I done this on my own? Why is my only value my association with this man, but I'm not even valuable enough to have enough in the prenup to sort of make sure I'm okay, but do I care about that? And if money isn't my goal, why do I? There's all these conflicting things
Yeah.
that are going on in her head. Um, and I felt very
Mhm.
sympathetic towards the character and brought a lot of myself to it, because I do think that there's there are real things about being a woman in there and being sort of valued for, she's just in denial about a lot, I think, before she gets on her vacation.
Mhm. There's a moment actually when I think it's you, Jake, and Molly are sitting at dinner. I love how there are so many scenes that are bookended by breakfast and dinner. I love that there is that throughout the whole show. And there's a moment where like Molly's character is just saying money, 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 money. Like that's the only thing she's saying. And I think I remember when I first watched it, I instinctively said something along the lines of like, get out, just like get away. It was just sort of like I feel like that's another moment where we sort of connect with your character because it just feels so sort of otherworldly in a weird way. I don't know.
Well, it's Mike's brilliant. I mean, it's brilliant because it's, people talk about money constantly and how much they have. And, you know, I grew up in New York and I live in LA now and I'm in Hollywood. So like, there's a lot of conversations that are pointed by like talking about their vacations or houses.
mm,
There's a lot of conversations about money, and people aren't saying the word money maybe, or they are, whatever, but it's money, money, money. So the fact that she's just repeating the word is in a way similar to some of the conversations that go on in this sort of,
mm,
and my guess would be that's sort of the point he was trying to make.
yeah,
And
sort of like
and
just
like, what are we really talking about here, you know?
it was even sort of like Rachel can is just hearing everybody's subtext just through that, like that's what they're really saying, that's all they're talking about. As you were saying, it's sort of like we watch you almost go into a trance and we only hear what people are really talking about when um yeah, it's just
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
um I did want to talk about a specific moment in terms of like physicality for you. There is a lot of talk throughout the show that leads into the trophy wife status of like looking a certain way. I had forgotten how much uh, Jake's character just refers to Rachel as like his hot wife. And that really disturbed me upon my rewatch. And there's a moment when stuff is really settling in for Rachel and you're lying in bed together, and it's sort of like you physically need to get away from him. And I wanted to know what maybe that felt like for Rachel. Maybe that's like a new feeling for her, but it's sort of like a very alarming, cringy, physical feeling for her. I was wondering if you could describe.
Yeah, I think I think that based on how she looks, and obviously I'm playing the character, so I've experienced some of this in my real life.
Mm,
There's such a focus on appearance, and I found, especially as a young woman and going, I'm 36 now, but from the time I was 14, 15, 16, it was just endless comments on my appearance. And then when I started dating, to varying degrees, and even as an adult, where I should have known better, I've certainly dated men who, you know, talk about how, say those kinds of things, and it
mm,
never really ends up, it's a very strange thing to focus on.
yeah.
And I do think that some people get caught up in what they think that is.
Mm,
Um, God, and even talking about it, I feel like like it's a strange thing. And I think that's part of their toxic relationship is him seeing her as a prize. And like, look at how hot she is. And then there's this flip side thing where I think that because she's gone through her life like that, she's using it. Even with the scene with Sydney and Brittany, where I get in the pool, it's like, oh yeah, you think you're hot shit, but I have this, and I've been told my whole life I have this, and I'm going to show you what I have. So it's a little bit of this societal pressure, the way that she's probably been treated. I have my whole backstory on her, but then you know, they've been playing into that, the two of them, which is what's created this toxic dynamic. And he doesn't even realize what he's saying when he says that to her, that, look, this is your value. And how does that end up affecting her? You know, and I do think that that's part of her, like, what is my value? I want to do more than just be, and it goes back to money, money, money. And you won, and there were lots of pretty girls, but you're the prettiest, or you're the best, or you're the most easygoing, whatever it is that, you know, got her to win. Sort of comes through this, her not feeling like she's really understood or appreciated for who she is, either in her work or her relationship.
Wow, that's fucked up. Okay. I guess one last question before I let you go. The final scene that you have with Jake in the airport really ripped my heart out. And I mean, you say, everything's fine, I'm happy, I promise. That just is so, I don't think we actually get to see characters that we root for have that sort of ending like that. I think it's a very honest thing. You know, not every single person who has the plan to get out does get out of a situation that they find themselves in. And I was wondering if you could tell me what it was like to sort of leave Rachel there, because I think it's a really sad, tragic thing for your character.
It is, but I think it's very relatable, and again goes back to the brilliance of Mike, that he understands this, because I understand a little bit, because I do think with Shane there's a rejection of you're not allowed to feel bad. Like, you're rich, you're on vacation, and you have me, and your feelings are really messing up my happiness or my contentment. So the tragedy in saying, I'll be happy, I promise, I will, I'll be happy, I will, is she's not going to be happy, but she's going to pretend in order to make him happy, which ultimately is going to lead to nothing but more tragedy. And so it's very sad, and it's sadder than I think it even appears, because you have someone who's rejecting everything she feels. And as we all know, when you don't get to express how you feel and you reject how you feel, you know, it can be very, very stressful and confusing. And I think part of the reason we're all put on this planet is to feel how we feel, within reason, of course, but find a partner who can genuinely accept you and your feelings, and you know, work with you on them. And that's she's gonna do whatever she can to make him happy, because otherwise she fails in her mind.
Oh wow, I want to go watch the show again. It's just so good. Okay, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much.
I love it. Good luck this season. Have fun.
And just it's also depressing, but it's also funny too, which is the other brilliance of Mike. Who was able to do all of that with these very dark stories is just amazing. So I'm so glad you like it. Thank you so much.
Love it. Thank you. Good luck. Have a good rest of your day. Stay safe. Bye.
Bye.